Judith Levine over at The Guardian. She's got her panties in a wad. She's breaking out in hives. And she's got her panties in a wad and she's breaking out in hives because Trump is going to be overseeing the 250th anniversary of this thing called the United States. So this is an opinion piece. And I mean, you want to talk about spazzing out. So it says here, this came out June 10th, so just a few days ago. This year's events, by the way, welcome back to the channel Culture Confederacy here. It's early Sunday morning, so if you're new, what you see is what you get. No fancy graphics, nothing like that. Talk about the news of the day related to culture, so history preservation, culture, preserving great art, music, history. But she says this year's events will be a melange of Trumpian egotism, MAGA populism, and Christian nationalism. We'll get to that here in a moment, especially the Christian nationalism part. Musicians who dropped out of the Great American State Fair said they were tricked. They were tricked, you see. They didn't know going into this that they'd be celebrating the 250th anniversary and that Trump was in office. That he'd be overseeing this. Really? You were tricked. Or maybe it's just that you hate Trump. You just hate Trump and you don't want to be there. Just come out and admit you hate Trump, you don't want to be there. Quote, I have informed my agents that I will not be, and look at the people who are performing here. We're not talking about the National Symphony Orchestra or some great, jazz group like the Modern Jazz Quartet or Dolly Parton. No. We're talking about people like this. Quote, I have informed my agents that I will not be performing at the Freedom 250 event, wrote the rapper Young MC on Facebook of the first major celebration of the U.S.'s 250th birthday. Quote, the artists were never told about any political involvement with the event. And despite the claims by the organizers that the event is nonpartisan, Spin Magazine describes it as Trump-backed. The country singer Martina McBride said that the organizers' description of the event as nonpartisan turned out to be misleading. Oh, come on now. You see what they're doing here, right? They knew going into this that Trump was in charge, that he was elected as a Republican, that MAGA most likely is going to be spearheading this thing because Trump's president. No different than if Biden were president or Obama were president. The other side would be screaming. Because these two parties can't get along, never have. And never will. But after many of the acts withdrew, rather than perpetuate the charade of neutrality, I got to try that sometime. Did I say neutrality? Neutrality. The humiliated president decided to replace them all with what he called, quote, the number one attraction anywhere in the world. Me, Donald J. Trump. Of course, because he's got to do it better than everybody else, because he's Trump. I mean, seriously, isn't that what you would want? Somebody who wants to do it the best it can be, or present something the best it can be, overseeing this thing. You're going to leave it to a bunch of nincompoops? I don't think so. And I didn't vote for Trump. That makes sense because the fair sponsor is not America 250, the nonpartisan body set up by Congress a decade ago to oversee the commemoration of the semi-quincentennial, say that 10 times, or 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. There's an organization called Freedom 250, which all but wholly owned subsidiary of MAGA. So what? Like, you people on the Democrat side, you don't have the same thing. You don't have some organization under a different name that's being, funded by somebody else. Come on now. Have I mentioned that the real problem in this thing called the United States are these two political parties? That's your real issue here? But neither side wants to admit it because they got to be in power. They want the power, you see. Even had the organizers been more honest, the artist could easily have been confused. Since his first term, Trump has been honing in on the 2026 events, funding his pet projects through opaque and complex structures that confound donors, participants, Congress, the president, everyone else about who is paying for what. Because Trump's in power, I just can't take it anymore. I can't. How dare he do this? Betray the American people, you traitor. The situation is just not another example of Trump's impunity in using the U.S. Treasury as his personal piggy bank, as though these people in Congress on either side of the aisle have never done this. She's acting like, Judith Levine is acting like this has never happened before. This is something new. It is emblematic of the ways in which the president is conflating the celebration of the nation's founding with a celebration of himself. L'état, c'est moi. Is that how you say it? It replaces substance with spectacle and history with myth. The heroes of the myth are a clutch of white men under the guiding hand of a Christian God. The villains are anyone who dares insert an inconvenient historical truth. What are those truths? Trying to get the words out here. What are those truths? Inconvenient historical truths. She really doesn't. Now, this is funny. She quotes herself in this. The hubris of this woman. She quotes herself in this article. The heroes of the myth, and this is in bold red italic type here. The heroes of the myth are a clutch of white men under the guiding hand of a Christian God. The villains are anyone who dares insert an inconvenient historical truth. And she doesn't bother putting the other exclamation or the other quotation thing. What do you call it? The quotes at the end? Are we missing part of a quote here? The commission's themes were anodyne, educate, engage, unite, but the Trump administration was more than ordinarily watchful for quote-unquote wokeness. African-American historians marked 2019, here we go, folks, as the 400th anniversary of the arrival of the first slave ship on U.S. shores. In a special issue of the New York Times Magazine that would become the best-selling 1619 Project, journalist Nicole Hannah-Jones posited that 1619 and not 1776 was the true birth of the nation, establishing slavery and anti-black racism as pillars of its existence forevermore. Really now. The first ships to bring over slaves to the Americas were with the Spanish and the Portuguese, going back to the, late 1400s, mid 1500s. Not 1619, Nicole Hannah-Jones. And there was no, quote-unquote, United States at that time. There was the continent of North America and South America. But there was no United States in 1619. Because we didn't have any real colonies then. Although you could argue St. Augustine would really be the first colony. I'm from Florida originally. And we forget about the Spanish influence on American history, American culture. Trust me, being from Florida, you see it all around you. So she's wrong on her dates here. I know the United States did not start in 1619. Can we make this same argument about Africa? Because if we're going to base when a nation starts on when they receive slaves, well, what about Africa? All these nations in Africa. What about Egypt? What about ancient Rome? I mean, granted, Rome was a city, but it was an empire. What about Greece? Then came 2020, the police murder of George Floyd, and an eruption of Black Lives Matter protests nationwide, which has nothing to do with the 250th anniversary of this thing called the United States, which was simply the United States, these colonies declaring their independence from British rule. I want to say Spanish rule, but British rule. I'm thinking of the Republic of West Florida. That 4th of July at Mount Rushmore, Trump denounced BLM as angry mobs and decried a left-wing cultural revolution, designed to overthrow the American Revolution, destroy the U.S.'s very civilization. This in response to a merciless campaign to wipe out our history, defame our heroes, erase our values, and indoctrinate our children. And as a counterweight, here we go again to the 1619 Project. The administration established its own competing 1776 commission, which released a report 2 days before Biden's inauguration and 12 days after the failed insurrection at the Capitol. Well, it wasn't an insurrection. It was a whole bunch of goons that got out of hand January 6th, and there wasn't enough security or police to handle it. That's what happened. End of story. End of story. That's exactly what happened. And you people in Washington, D.C., and in the political establishment and the runaway media sat there with your tongues hanging out, not knowing what to do, lapping it all up. Oh my God, what do we do? What do we do? Crisis management. Unreal, man. Absolutely unreal. See, I tell you how it is. And the report rehearsed the same things as the 4th of July speech and recommended teaching enlightened patriotism and a history centered on the great white man and scant on the lives of enslaved or indigenous people or women. Can I tell you, being somebody who is part Native American, actually, Cherokee, Iroquois, who's got relatives who are Japanese American, my cousins are Japanese American, no. You see, we didn't sit on our ass waiting for a handout. We worked our butts off. My grandfather came to this country where he was dirt poor, couldn't rub 2 nickels together. In fact, I found out that when my great-grandfather on my mom's side got married to my great-grandmother, he was German, or his family was German, and hers was English or British. They didn't get along. Gee, I wonder why. Could it be because there was something called World War II that happened? But at any rate, but Biden disbanded the 1776 commission and revoked the report on his first day in office. But its distorted spirit of 1776 has risen again. Its distorted spirit. Well, Miss Levine, or Mrs. Levine, I don't know if she's married, can you tell us exactly what is the spirit of 1776? Probably can't. Probably doesn't know what it is. Probably never read the ratification debates. Never really did a thorough investigation of what life was like in the 1800s or the late 18th century, early 1800s, 19th century. Realizing, or never coming to the realization that these people were living under a king, a monarchy. Freedom 250 is thin on substance, but is fat on income, with the Interior Department, in which it is nestled, having quietly instructed staff to use Freedom 250 as a primary branding on American 250 or 250 events. Freedom 250 has eclipsed the bipartisan semi-quincentennial and siphoned off public funding and private donations. Again, as though you Democrats have not done the same thing. See, a lot of this is smoke and mirrors. It's politics. It makes people feel good. It's all imagery. Trump's all about imagery. Even The Guardian is about imagery. It's a media organization, right? They publish these stories about different people and different events. Sometimes serious, sometimes not. I mean, come on. And according to notice of April, as of April, America 250 has received only $25 million of its $100 million appropriation. It's tallied $100 million funding shortfall and a slimmer take in private donations than expected. Meanwhile, the Park Foundation, and by proxy Freedom 250, has been granted nearly $80 million in federal funds for the semi-quincentennial, 10 times its total going back to 2009. What does this have to do with anything? I thought we were talking about Trump lying about the 250th anniversary of this thing called the United States, the history of the United States. Now we're getting into the funding of this? Picking hairs here? Again, Democrats have done the same thing. They just don't want to admit to it. You see, because they're not in office. So I'm going to stop it there. You get the point here. I'm going to stop it there. This woman is in that. She's got her panties in a wad. because Trump is in charge of the 250th anniversary of this thing called the United States. Unreal, man, unreal. I'm sorry, but Jill Levine needs to get a life. Grow up, get a life, lady. So tell me what you think in the comment section below. Follow me at Instagram, Jason197711. You can find me at Substack or go to Culture Confederacy at Culture Confed1 on X. This is the Culture Confederacy saying peace out. Stay safe, everybody. Keep up the culture. God bless, and I'll catch you next time.